Hello friends, welcome back. We will have a new set of learning happening right now, and it's going to be the deep learning interview questions. I'll have about 10 series, 10 sessions with covering about 10 questions in each session. We'll have about 100 questions totally on deep learning. I've collected all these questions going through a lot of resources, and I've tried to give the best answers possible, and I hope you definitely like it and it's very useful for you. Can we get into the questions right away? Define deep learning. This is the most common question that they ask right in the beginning. Deep learning is all about imitating the human brain in processing the data and to understand it. It's exactly mimicking the human brain. That's it. Whenever you use neural networks, whenever you use neurons as the fundamental stuff, we can call it deep learning. This is fully based on neural networks, and the human brain is full of neurons. People also call this deep neural learning or deep neural networks, and solution should be in such a way that the brain thinks. So to define it crisply, whenever you can get a solution which is going to be as good as the one that the human brain thinks about, we call it deep neural networks or deep neural learning or deep learning. What is the relationship you could draw between a deep learning, AI, and machine learning? AI is a bigger basket. I have got a bigger circle in front of you, and that's called AI. And inside that, we have got machine learning as a smaller subset. And inside machine learning, we have got a further smaller subset called as deep learning. And here we use the neural networks to mimic the human brain. That's it. So AI is the larger circle, and inside that we have got machine learning, which is the smaller subset, and inside that we have got deep learning, which is further a smaller subset. And all these are connected. You are building AI applications using machine learning and deep learning, and NLP also is kind of connected into it, which we'll talk about little later. Define underfitting, overfitting, and correct fitting. We have presented the pictures in front of you. The first one is underfitted, the second one is good fit, the third one is overfit. Let me use a pointer so that it will be easy for me to highlight. What is underfitting? Very simple. The line does not cover all the points that are shown in the graph. You can see that here the points are all here, but I have drawn the line here, so it has not covered most of the points which are available on the graph. This is called underfitting, and this is also regarded as high bias. Remember, all the underfitted schemes that you see in front of you can be called as high biased. What is overfitting? I have got overfitting presented here. This is actually not possible to have this much accurate result. That's what is the point that you need to remember. Ideally this cannot happen. We have covered almost every point out here and the line is drawn that way. So this is not possible. This is not ideally possible things. It covers all the points, means that we could have missed the noise as well as outliers. So this is not a good approach. This model where we have covered each and every point is called overfitting, where we have missed the outliers, where we have missed the noise, and this means that this will give you a very poor result, and this is to be avoided. And this approach is called as high variance approach. The underfitting leads to high bias, the overfitting leads to high variance approach. Now what is correct fit? The name says it all, right? It's correct fit. That's it. It's the perfect fit. This will not give you high bias and variance. This covers majority of the points. You can see that majority of the points are covered here, and that's it. This is called correct fitting. Let's go to the next question. Now we have seen the underfitting, overfitting, and correct fitting. It is time for us to understand what exactly is bias. Bias is how far are the predicted values from the actual values. Means I have a predicted value, I have the actual value, how much difference is there between these? And if the average predicted values are far off from the actual values, then the bias is high. This is what we have seen with underfitting. You can see that in underfitting we have called it as high bias system, right? So this is the connect that you need to establish between underfitting and bias. The bias is simple: how far are the predicted values from the actual values, and the average predicted values are far off from the actual values, then the bias is very high. When you have underfitting, you will definitely get high bias. And what is the side effect of the bias, high bias? The model is said to be very simple, and it will not capture all the complexity of the data, and that is a disaster. You should not do it. Now what is the variance? I have told about bias. Now it's time for us to understand what is variance. Variance occurs when the model performs very well with the trained data set, but on the other hand, does not do well at all with the data set that is not exposed to or not trained on, like a test data set or a validation data set. The variance tells us how much scattered are the predicted value from the actual value. So what is the side effect? Very simple. You will have the noise outliers which are also included, and this is regarded as overfitting. It will do very well with the model, that with the contents that you have trained to it, but it will not get well at all with the things that they are not exposed to. It is like a simple example. I am bowling 5 balls to you, and all the 5 balls are only fast balls. You have played all the 5 balls well. Sixth ball I am bowling a spin, you are not able to tackle it. That's it. Simple example. Right now, explain the structure of the human neuron. I have presented it in front of you. This is a very common question. Whichever interview you go, they will definitely ask this question, and this is pretty common. The neuron has got very important components like dendrites, a nucleus, an axon, and the terminal axon. That's it. The neuron has a cell body, as you can see, and nucleus inside. You can see everything there which we have highlighted very clearly. It has got a dendrite, it has got nucleus, it has got axon terminal and the axon. These are all the most important components that you need to know. The cell body is essentially a round polygon, and there is where the signal processing happens. The entire signal processing happens in the cell body. Understand, whenever we talk about neural networks, it is all about signals. When there is a message or a communication from one neuron to another, it produces electrical signals. Remember it, when there is a message sent from one neuron to another, it produces electrical signals. These signals are to be transmitted from the source neuron to the destination neuron, and all these happen through a long structure that you can see yellow in color, called as axon. Very simple. I'm going to send the content from the source to the destination, and it goes via the axon. Many signals can be received at a particular instance from other neurons as well, and this is the purpose with which we have the dendrites there in the structure of the human neuron. That's it. You need to understand this way. I have got dendrites, nucleus, axon, and terminal axon, most important components. From one neuron to another neuron, the content has to go, that goes via axon, and many signals can be received at an instance from other neurons. And for this purpose, we have got dendrites available there, and that's it. This is a very simplest way you can understand how exactly the structure of human neuron is there. Now, draw the structure of simple ANN. Very simple. Whenever this question is asked, just draw 3 layers. That is enough. Input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. Finished. Pause input. Hidden layer is there. Get the output. This is enough for you to explain how exactly a simple ANN works. What is it? Very simple. The first layer is called as the input layer. The last column, as we know, is called as the output layer. Anything in between is called hidden layer. How many hidden layers can be there? You can have as many number of hidden layers as you want. And the more the number of hidden layers, we call it more deeper it is. So we call it deeper and deep neural networks. Having very limited or just one hidden layer will make our ANN shallow. So it is normally preferred to have multiple hidden layers in between, and we will learn about what kind of hidden layers can be there in the questions that I'm going to tackle a little later. Define convolution. This is one that you should not forget, and this is going to be like fundamental for deep learning, so please remember it. In math, it is all math again. It is all mathematics. Remember it. Convolution is a mathematical operation on two functions that produces a third function expressing how the shape of one is modified by other. That's all. Very simple. Convolution is all math. It is on two functions that produces the third function. The third function will tell you how the shape of one is modified by another. That's all. I have defined convolution very clearly. I hope you understand it. Now, how convolution works? Very simple. We need to understand the structure of ANN first. I have got input layers, I have got multiple hidden layers, I have got output layer. Now the hidden layers can be called as the convolution layers. This is what I have told you just before a couple of slides, where I asked you what is ANN. And ANN will have multiple hidden layers, and the hidden layers can as well be a convolution layer. The number of convolution layers can be anything based on your application and based on the depth you want in your system. Right. Now what is the first step? We need to have the filter chosen, and I have chosen a 3x3 filter here, and I'll have an input matrix, which is an input image with me, and I have chosen a 3 cross 3 filter. 1 1 1 0 0 0 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1. This is a random value that I have chosen here. So don't worry much about why this, why that and all. Now understand, I'll have to get a 3 cross 3 filter right now. I have got the input image. Now I will have to convolve it. Very simple. I am using the term convolving here. The filter is going to be convolved with the input matrix. Now this is the input matrix. It has to be convolved with this filter. So what will happen? Very simple. 1 into 1, 0 into 1, minus 1 into 1. Similarly 0 into 1, I mean 1 0 into 1, you can see the 0 into minus 1. These completely gets multiplied here, and that's it. You will get one result for this first 3 cross 3. Similarly, one result for this second 3 cross 3. One result for this third 3 cross 3. Likewise, you will get this 5 cross 5 matrix. I mean, this entire input matrix will be reduced to 3 cross 3 when you convolve it with a 3 cross 3 filter. That's it, is called convolution. I am going to hover my filter over the input image. I get a reduced version of it, and that's called convolution. Define depth. As conveyed earlier, just now I discussed, depth is fundamentally based on number of filters that we have used. If I use n different filters, the depth of the feature map is n. I can use any number of filters, and that fundamentally determines that depth. Now, what is striding? It's very important question to be understood. We move the matrix when we move the filter over the input matrix when we convolve it here. I am showing you that here. So here it is. Next time I will move it here, and these three boxes will be covered. And next time I will take these three boxes. So that's called striding. I move. Now first, when striding is 1, I'll cover these three, and then I'll start with these three. If the striding is set to 2, I'll cover these three, and I'll skip the first two, and I'll move to the next one. So I mean fundamentally I move 2 pixels away. When striding is 1, I move 1 pixel away. When striding is 2, I move 2 pixels away. That's it. This is called striding. Moving a pixel, moving 1 pixel at a time corresponds to striding 1. Moving 2 pixels at a time corresponds to striding 2. We'll learn more, and I hope it was interesting. If you have questions, suggestions, please go ahead and type it in the comment sections. If you like the channel, please subscribe. Thank you.